Welcome back to episode 111 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here, Troy. As always, what's going on, Troy? Staying cool?
I'm trying. It is hot here, and we're not used to this 100-degree heat or 110-degree whatever humidity with humidity. It's crazy.
It's like Phoenix here in the Twin Cities. I got to tell you something crazy. So yesterday was worse. It wasn't like the heat index here.
Yeah.
The real feel, as they call it, something like 110 or 113, something like that. So we're in the Twin Cities. I'm from northern Minnesota, about 3 hours north of where we're at. I called my parents last night, to make sure they're like alive.
The power went out in a couple neighborhoods.
It did go in a couple neighborhoods here. Thank God. It's a miracle. It didn't go into my house. So I called my parents. My dad answers, and I'm like, "You surviving, Dad?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, it's sweltering." He's like, "I just turned the fireplace on." So the high here, like I said, with the real feel yesterday was something like 110, 113, something like that. The high where I'm from in Hibbing, Minnesota, 3 hours north, was 67 degrees yesterday.
Wow.
How's that happen?
It's the heat dome. The dome ended before Hibbing.
Really? I don't know what a heat dome is.
I learned about the heat dome just sitting over the U.S. right now, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, they had the low was in the 30s yesterday. So and we see this a lot here in Minnesota, the difference between the northern part of the state and the southern part of the state can just be crazy weather-wise. But something like a 50-degree difference yesterday in temperature, which is just wild. Well, got some announcements before we get started, and kind of a big one too. Excited to, I guess, get the word out there. And it has to do with our Patreon and particularly our Discord community. So last season, when our show was very, very small, I think we had a Discord for maybe 2 weeks. At the point that we thought of this idea to come up with a contest or game. It's more of a game of skill, we'll call it, called the 5K Challenge, where we gave all 6 of us in the Discord at that time a fictional $5,000 budget, and you got to pick whatever cards you wanted within that $5,000 before the season started. And then we were going to track throughout the NHL season basically the values and whose picks went up or down the most. And the contest ended the last day of the Stanley Cup Finals. We have a winner because we finally took us a while because you have to do a lot of tabulations, look up all the values and such. And so the winner of last year's 5K Challenge ended up being 419 Sports Guy, whose total picks increased by, I think, 12% in value. Now, his best pick was the 2005-06 Ovechkin Young Guns in SGC 9.5 that prior to the start of the season had a value of $1,551 US. And then by the end of the Stanley Cup Finals was up to $2,500. So that was a 61% increase and helped him pull away. And we've sent him his prize. It was a small prize because we're a very small show at that time, a box of 2022-23 extended hobby box. So congrats again to him for winning. The craziest part, though, Troy, about this exercise and going back, and because you and I play, even though we can't win, is looking at how horrible my picks were. And the glass half full perspective of that is how much smarter maybe I am now, because I look at the cards that I picked with that 5K of funny money, and I was like, what was I thinking? Just horrible, awful picks. And I think you did better than me. You broke even.
Yeah, I was dead, cents. I made cents or lost cents, if I remember right.
I lost 15%, but it was a lot of fun. And like I said, it was something that we started when we were very, very new, but it was so much fun that we wanted to bring it back for 2023-24. And now that we're a tiny bit bigger, we're still not big, but we're a tiny bit bigger, we wanted to amp it up a little bit and make it a little bit more exciting. And we thought, well, the best way to do that is have a better prize. And even though 2022-23 Extended is kind of a banger this year, they got lots of kind of cool stuff with that Young Guns acetates and all that. So hopefully 419 Sports Guy hits something really cool. But Troy, we actually have it in person, a box of 2020-21 the Cup.
Yeah.
Which will be the prize for the winner of the 23-24 5K challenge. So we're going big. We've never even opened a box of the cup.
Nope.
Now, you can't win. We're going to play. The biggest miracle, though, we've decided, because it's sitting right, I can look and see it on my shelf here.
Yeah.
It's sitting on the shelf. If it makes it on that shelf before you and I maybe have a glass of whiskey one night and decide to open it, it'll be a miracle if it makes it to the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we're really excited that we're bringing the 5K challenge back, and can't wait for everyone who's in our Discord community to participate. We're going to have all the rules and how to enter, all the particulars in our Discord very, very soon. We've actually got a couple commissioners that are going to help, because we're anticipating, given it's going to be for a sealed box of the cup, that a lot of people are going to be interested, and we have no time. So Louis and Irish Flyer Collector from Discord have graciously volunteered to help. So how you enter is basically, it's for people that are patrons that get access to our Discord community. By doing that, you really support our show. It helps us cover our expenses, continue to produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, and fund initiatives to grow the hobby and enrich our community in a way. And doing something like the 5K challenge is one of the ways that you can do that. So if you want to support us, you can join our out of net $199 support level tier that via Patreon. It's very easy to do. It starts at $5 a month. You can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com. There's a link to become a patron. There's a link in the show description, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast app right now. And there's a link in our link tree on our Instagram and TikTok profiles. And then you can go to the Patreon website directly, patreon.com, and just search for Hockey Cards Gong Show. Now, if you're a big baller like Troy and you want to be a super supporter of our show, we have a triple gold option that's $19.95 a month. You'll get all the other benefits that regular supporters do, but you're going to get 2 entries in the 5K challenge for every triple gold member. So just keep that in mind if that's something that might be interesting to you. We actually have 3 new Discord members that will be eligible to participate in the 5K challenge this year since our last show. So we have James Mc23. He's the new one out of 199. Rally SC out of 199, and Corey out of 199. Thank you guys so much for your support of our show. We really appreciate it. It's going to be bonkers this year doing the 5K challenge. Huh?
As long as I don't have to look up every single card value, I'm so glad we got a couple of commissioners to help out.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot of help, and maybe to find a better way to streamline it. But I can't wait to see who all the picks are. And I want to, even though we can't win, I want to do better this year. My goal is to not lose 15%. All right, Troy, you ready with the game plan?
All right, on today's show, we begin with the greatest NHL player to wear number 11. Then we take a look at breaking down vintage versus modern hockey cards. Next, it's off to hobby news, followed by a look at the top 5 Mark Messier sales. And let's just say there is a reason we are going to call Mark Messier the ultimate hockey buddy. You will see when we get to that segment why we say that. We then take a look at some of our favorite hockey cards in the current PWCC Weekly Auction. We then go to new product releases, and we finish the show with another personal pickup segment, Josh. I don't know what's going on. We have lots of pickups. I guess we're doing something as hockey card podcasters. We're actually collecting a lot of hockey cards. So we got some good ones to show you, or a couple good ones.
Got some bangers too. Like, yep. I think both of us are very, very pumped about the cards we picked up.
Definitely. All right, Josh. We are on episode 111. So the greatest player to wear number 11 per the Hockey Writers' greatest NHL player to wear each number article is this guy, Mark Messier.
You have the best pictures. My new favorite thing about our show is looking at your pictures.
All right, this is an old school, if you're watching YouTube, picture of Mark Messier. He looks pretty young. He's got a full head of hair. Runners up were listed as Gilbert Perreault, David Legwand, and Daniel Alfredson were the runners up. So
not really close.
Not as close as number 9, where it was like, here's just a stacked number of people. All right, our boy, Mark Messier. I'm going to show this picture because I like this one too. Because this is what I assume Messier looks like. That's what I always assume him looking like on the ice.
He looks like he would not be fun to play against.
No, he's like just tough, ornery, grinder. Yeah. All right, Messier was a forward from St. Albert, Alberta, Canada. Now, Josh, we Americans almost got to claim Messier. I did not know this. When Messier was very young, his family moved to Portland, Oregon, where Messier's father played minor league hockey for the Portland Buckaroos of the WHL. That might be my new favorite team.
Buckaroos.
The Buckaroos. However, after his dad's playing career, they decided to move back to St. Albert, and Messier attended high school in Edmonton. So we lost him. We could have maybe got him if he just stayed in Portland or the U.S., and he could have switched his citizenship. But unfortunately, he went back to Canada. Messier was the 48th overall draft pick in the 1979 NHL entry draft by the Edmonton Oilers.
47 players, obviously better than Messier.
Yep. Messier played in 1,756 regular season games over a 25-season NHL career. Messier began his career playing 12 seasons with the Edmonton Oilers. He then played 6 seasons with the New York Rangers. Next, he played for the Vancouver Canucks for 3 seasons, and then he finally ended his playing career playing 4 more seasons back with the New York Rangers.
Okay, I have a question about the length of his career.
Yes.
Do you think hockey has the longest, like the most guys that have played more than 20 years?
That's a good question. It's got
be either hockey or baseball.
It's not football, I can tell you that. That sport just leans to it. I think the average career is 3 years or something.
Yeah, they grind you up and spit you out.
Yeah, baseball for sure. It's the least physical demanding just when you're playing. So I'd say baseball and hockey for sure.
I would guess more hockey players have played longer.
Yeah, it seems like
baseball,
it. We get all these guys. Yeah, we get all these guys that have played 20 plus years or seasons. For his awards and accomplishments, Messier, Hall of Famer, 6-time Stanley Cup winner, 2-time Hart. Yeah, that's it. 6-time. 2-time Hart Trophy winner, 1-time Conn Smythe winner, 2-time Ted Lindsay Award winner. Again, back then it was the Lester B. Pearson Award. 4-time NHL First All-Star Team selection, 1-time NHL Second All-Star Team selection, 16-time NHL All-Star Game selection.
Jeez.
He was named to the NHL's top 100 players list. He was named to the Athletics top 100 players of the NHL expansion era. And his number 11 is retired by the Edmonton Oilers and the New York Rangers. All right, over his career, he scored 694 goals, 1,193 assists for 1,887 points. He made the playoffs in 17 of his 25 NHL seasons, compiling 109 goals, 186 assists for 295 points in 236 NHL playoff games played. I forgot how prolific he was in the playoffs. I knew he played a ton in the playoffs. I totally didn't realize he almost had 300 points total.
I feel like these guys don't get enough credit for their playoff points too. Always referenced are their regular season points, and what's more important, scoring points in November or in the third round of the playoffs or the conference finals, whatever.
It's actually funny you say that because in a fun fact, I have a stat that's going to combine them.
You always do. You're so prepared.
For some reason, I know how to do that. During his career, Messier had 50 plus points for 18 straight seasons.
Wow.
So that ran from the 1980-81 season to the 97-98 season. In fact, out of his 25 NHL seasons, he had 50 plus points in 20 of those NHL seasons. He also had 6 seasons of 100 plus points. However, it is interesting to note that Messier only had 1 season of 50 goals, and he scored exactly 50. Best season of his NHL career from a point standpoint was his 89-90 season, where Messier had 45 goals, 84 assists for 129 points in 79 games played. All right, Josh. Obviously, Messier is considered one of the greatest NHL players ever. You can pretty much pick up on this just by looking at where he ranks on any of these all-time lists. He is second all-time for playoff points with 295. Third all-time for regular season games played at 1,756. Third all-time for regular season points with 1,887. third all-time for regular season assists with 1,193, ninth all-time for regular season goals with 694, and second all-time for shorthanded goals with 63. So obviously, great career, huge production numbers. But besides his production, I think a lot of people know Messier is known as one of the best leaders and captains in NHL history. Put him up there, right? Yzerman is another guy we think of when we think of captains. Yeah. Messier was a fierce and tough competitor. That's why I like my picture that I'm showing here. I kind of put this there. I think any picture of him playing, I never see him look happy. He looks like he's intently focused on what is going on. Again, leading to my picture that I'm showing for our YouTube videos.
He's a big dude too, like very intimidating.
6'3". Yeah, he's a big guy. So here's a little thing. I went kind of on a tangent, but what was interesting in doing research on Messier is that I didn't realize that he kind of had some discipline issues early on in his career. I had no clue about this. So he had a situation where he missed a team flight his first year in the NHL, and the Oilers actually sent him to the minors for 4 games as punishment.
Wow.
In 1984, Messier was suspended for 10 games for a sucker punch and breaking, I think his name's Jamie McCown's cheekbone. And I guess he either got cross-checked in the back or got boarded by McCown. So I guess it was kind of a retaliation thing. But again, you sucker punch someone, you're gonna get suspended, especially when you break their cheekbone. And then in 1985, Messier crashed his Porsche into 3 parked cars and was charged with hit and run and careless driving. So those are things I didn't know. And I guess what I wanted to bring up is it actually shows that you can actually turn your career around, because who thinks of that stuff with Messier anymore? It's one of the great players, his production, leadership, being one of the greatest captains of all time. So you can struggle, have some run-ins with the old law, but turn it around if you take the right steps. So I thought that was really interesting about his career.
What do you think your insurance company says when you crash your Porsche into 3 cars
and then run and then try to leave?
Not great.
Not good. So after his playing career, Messier has done a bunch of different things. He's coached. He stays active in NHL alumni events. He's raised money for the Kingsbridge National Ice Center in the Bronx. He's been a studio analyst for NHL broadcasts, which is what my picture is showing if you're watching on YouTube. And I didn't know this. He appeared in ads for Lay's Chips and various other business venues.
He still looks intimidating. Like, even in the picture you're showing, it's like he's looking at you and he's disappointed in something you've done.
He does. Definitely. He still looks like he's in fantastic shape. Like he could jump out there and still play a couple periods if he wanted to. So that's the little breakdown of Mark Messier. So let's get into the fun and interesting facts. So I couldn't find any stories on why Messier wore number 11, but I did find a story that he did not endure himself to Canucks fans by his insistence on wearing number 11. So I guess in Vancouver, the number 11 was unofficially retired as it had been worn by Wayne Mackey, who passed away from brain cancer in 1974. And I think he was like an active player then, or he was on medical leave. And the Vancouver fans didn't like Messier kind of insisting he wears that number.
I don't remember him playing for the Canucks at all. You?
I remember it, but it sounds like it didn't go well. I think there's he didn't produce, injury, just starting off on a bad foot. It just seemed like it wasn't the right fit. Nickname for Messier was the Moose and also the Messiah when he was in New York and brought the cup back to the Rangers after however long that drought was.
Quite a bit of difference between the Moose and Messiah.
I like Moose. I think Moose is a great nickname. If I remember, didn't SP Game Used have the Moose patch, like the fake kind of made up patch? I think they had one in there.
Remember, I got the card. It was Eddie Belfour with the Moose patch. It was an error card.
That's all. That's right. No wonder I remember it. All right. Messier was the last former WHA player to be active in professional hockey. And he was the last active player in any of the major North American professional sports leagues to have played in the 70s. How do you like that one?
That's crazy.
Only NHL player to captain 2 teams to the Stanley Cup. And I got to believe that's captained 2 different teams, right?
Yes.
Someone's captained like the Oilers twice. Okay. Here's the stat I brought up way earlier. holds the record for most NHL regular season and playoff games played with 1,992.
So nobody's played in more NHL games than
That's
Mark
how I
Messier.
read that, yes.
Yes.
Messier himself awards the NHL's Mark Messier Leadership Award, which is given to the player that exemplified on-ice leadership and leadership within their communities. Kind of fitting, given his leadership qualities. It's kind of nice you get to give out an award and name the winner.
So can I ask you something about Messier?
Sure.
Why do you think he, given all that you just went through, which is incredible, I mean, barely, he's at the top of almost every sort of list and ranking, but he never seems to be considered in like that Mount Rushmore type conversation. Like when we did the Mount Rushmore, I don't even think did we even bring him up as a possibility?
I think we brought him up, but
why do you think that that's the case where he is kind of in that lower tier?
Probably some of it when he had his big point seasons, even though he did have huge point seasons without Gretzky, he probably gets lapped in with being on those Oilers teams with Gretzky, and he got the benefit of that. He never scored more than 50 goals. I'm sure some people are like, "Oh, why didn't he ever get 60 or 70?"
He went on to prove though that he could win without.
He can win without Gretzky. That's the thing. He won a cup, 2 cups without Gretzky. Okay. So yeah, I think that's why. I mean, just kind of, I don't know. He obviously one of the greatest players ever to play the game, but it seems sometimes he gets lost in the conversation. And I wonder if you ever, I mean, do people hold that he played so long that you're bound to have a lot of points? But hey, there's a reason you played 25 seasons because you're that good.
You could make that same argument with Gordie Howe, though, or Jaromir Jagr, right? You know, I think that being good for a long time is something that should be rewarded, not a reason or an excuse or something like that.
Well, I'll say, like, when I first, got into hockey and all that stuff a long time ago, and they talked about how I kind of poo-pooed. I was like, oh, he just played forever. And then you start researching him. He got his career high points when he was like 40 years old. Guess what? The guy was good. There's a reason he scored that, or he played that long.
Very true.
All right, rookie card. I think we've talked about this one a couple times on the show. Oops, I forgot to bring pictures of it. Never mind. It is a 1980-81 OPC number 289. Now, this one is an uncorrected error card, Josh. It says on the back that he shoots right-handed, which he did not shoot right-handed. This card, PSA 10, has a pop of 43 with a gem rate of 1.2%. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Card Ladder shows the highest price paid for this card was $25,506 via an eBay auction on February 17th of 2021.
I hope that person really likes that card.
I hope so too, because the most recent sale I could find was a $10,995 sale on August 1st of this year via an eBay auction and verified in Terapeak. A PSA 9 copy sold via eBay and verified in Terapeak on June 17th of this year for $1,175. And then a PSA 9 copy also did sell via ebay.ca on June 12th of this year for $2,140 US.
Mark Messier.
Apologies.
I will admit, I am enjoying these like lower numbers. It got a little rough there in like the 60s and 70s where we would go 4 shows in a row and I never heard of the person.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. And I was going to say apologies for not having the picture of the card, but for the YouTube
most people have seen it.
Most people have seen it. He's kind of hunched over. We all know what it is. All right, on to the show.
On to vintage versus modern. Okay, Troy, are you ready to?
I'm ready.
Continue our off-season hockey explorations and look at some vintage versus modern. So Troy has agreed he is going to definitively declare which is better today and enrage half the hobby.
There we go.
No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do some sort of like battle royale where we pick the winner because, well, we happen to think both are great. And any sort of judgment of what's better between the two is purely subjective anyways. Well, there's no right or wrong or worse or better when it comes to vintage versus modern collecting. There are differences, of course. And I think that leads them to appeal to certain personality types. But there's just things you need to know about collecting each category in order to be most successful in achieving whatever your goals are as you collect hockey cards. So that's our goal today. Break break them down, see what the key differences are in collecting vintage and modern, and hopefully share some tips to help you be successful at both. This is something, Troy, that we've been asked to do
Yep.
quite a bit, and we're just getting around to do it. And I think, especially for newer collectors, I hope these types of discussions can be helpful to sort of sort out where they want to, I guess, take their collecting experience and maybe shorten the learning curve for them a little bit. Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to see what percentage of hockey players collect vintage or what percentage collect modern or both. So,
Yep.
of course, we did an Instagram poll. I think yesterday had a lot of good response, hundreds of responses again, which is kind of crazy. And here were the results, Troy. So, only 4% of people that responded, and this was on Instagram, we'll get to that in a second,
Yep.
collect purely vintage, 51% only modern, and 45% collect both. Now, I don't know how to decipher this in that the Instagram demographics probably bias the results
Yep.
of that a little bit. You may have some like older people that aren't on social media a lot that are heavy vintage
Yep.
collectors. But I was happy to see, at least for the folks on Instagram, that almost half of people collect both. So that was kind of
Yep.
nice. And I've noticed too, like when we post stuff on Instagram, the modern stuff gets a lot more engagement or
Yeah.
people interact with it more than the vintage does anyways too. So take what you will from that. It's just kind of another data point that something to soak in, I guess. So for each category, Troy, vintage and modern, we're going to do a review what we think makes it unique, list some of the pros and cons, and then give, like I said, some specific tips to be successful. So we'll start with vintage. And here's what I think makes vintage unique from modern. First of all, it starts with the history, right?
Yep.
Vintage means old. And I think you really gain an appreciation of the players that have built the foundation of the game of hockey and the league of the NHL. And for us, interest in vintage cards has proved to be a catalyst to learn more about these players and just covering that aspect for our show. We've learned so much more and about the players, their careers, their impact on the game. And it's really, I don't know about you, Troy, but enhanced my appreciation for vintage collecting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been real cool. And I think oftentimes people, or one thing that makes vintage unique is that these cards are a connection or
Yep.
a bridge back in time to whether it's like your parents or grandparents' generation, and you want to collect the guys that they got to watch play when they were young or younger, or even back to your own childhood if you're a little bit like middle aged like we are, where you look back and some to the early 80s, and these are the guys that you watched as a kid on TV, and so there's that nostalgic kind of pull that
Yep.
you get with vintage collecting. I've said it before, but I guess as an example, every time I see a 1990 Fedorov Young Guns, it hits me in the feels,
Yep.
right? For anyone today, it'd be kind of a boring card, but it just brings me back to that time and how much I like those cards and how much I was chasing that card. And so I think everyone has their own example. I forget, Troy, what's your like 90 Fedorov sort of
Oh,
card?
84 Pele Limburg.
Yeah. All right. So that's the one that hits you in your feels, I guess. Another thing that I think separates vintage and modern, and this is something that we have to explore a little bit more, I think, even ourselves, is that there's niches within vintage that are more prevalent than they are in modern
Mm-hmm.
collecting. So one example would be set building. You see a lot of vintage guys that are big set builders, but you don't necessarily see a lot of people that modern set collect, or at least I
Yep.
don't. Do you?
No, I rarely see people trying to put together full sets, but again, you'll get to this, but it was a lot easier to put together a full set, probably of vintage cards. Not from the scarcity standpoint, but usually there's like one. But there was all the crazy parallels and all that stuff.
Yeah, I guess how would you even collect a modern set when
Yeah.
or maybe just like the base set? That's
Yeah.
because there are all these parallels, and some of them are 101s or out of fives that
Yep.
might be impossible to get. And then what sort of goes along with set collecting is a big thing for vintage collectors is that the PSA set registry,
Yep.
which I hardly know anything about. Jeremy Lee explained a little bit of it to me not too long ago, but it's something that I want to learn more about. So I did a little bit of research, and I kind of have the basics of how it works, of course. So, like for instance, if you want to collect 51, 52 Parkhurst, you would register your set on the PSA set registry, and then all the I think there's 100 cards in that set, and based on the grades that you have. So if you had all PSA 10s for 100 cards, you'd be on the top of a
Yeah.
leaderboard, and people compete to have essentially the best graded set of anyone else. And I know like people take that really seriously, and that really serves as kind of the driver of their collecting experience. And if you're interested to learn more about that, you can go to the PSA website. But had you looked into that much, the PSA set registry, or ever browsed it, anything like
I've
that?
actually kind of recently looking at some of these older cards on my greatest players. I've come to the PSA set registry a couple times through links, and I'm like you. I rarely, or I didn't really know what it was until you kind of brought it up, and then Jeremy let you know about it, and then I'm doing a little bit of research. But yeah, it's something I will probably never do, but it's really cool, and I think it's really cool for people that want to do that and gamify it a little bit.
Yeah. So anything that you can think of that makes that makes vintage collecting unique?
No, I mean the history, the bringing back the nostalgia, less
Yeah.
cards, all that fun stuff.
We also wanted to kind of list our pros and cons of each, right?
Yeah,
And not that reasons not to do it, but just things you should think about that. And a lot of these just appeal to different personality types more than anything, of kind of like what is satisfying to you or gets you excited about collecting. So I would put like a pro of collecting vintage is there's less volatility. These guys' careers are already over. You know exactly how many goals they've scored. You know how many Stanley Cups they won. That's not in question. Really, the only thing you would have to ever worry about would be like an OJ
yeah,
situation with any of them that could sort of derail the value of your investment if you want to look at it from an investment perspective. Where on the flip side, modern can be incredibly volatile. It's kind of like playing high stakes blackjack at times, you know. Right? There's many rookies and prospects show promise, but very few, of course,
yeah,
become superstars. So vintage, of course, is a lot less value. I would say too that there's less manufactured scarcity in vintage and more real scarcity. So
yeah,
if you look at the pop counts of the higher grade vintage cards, and hopefully if you've followed our show and as we've talked about cards and the PWCC Weekly or just highlighting different players, you've maybe that has hit you that man, some of these cards are super. Well, Mark Messier 43, did you say
yeah.
was the pop
46 or
count?
something. Yeah, 43,
Yeah,
46. PSA
and that's
10s.
crazy. He has one rookie card, and if you want a PSA 10, it's essentially out of 46,
Yeah,
right? And so I think that's where those not only did he have a legendary career, but that's where a lot of those big values come from. I think too another pro is it enhances your appreciation of the history of the game. We kind of talked about this already,
yeah,
but you're not going to collect vintage hockey, learn more about these great players and their achievements, and like the game less.
yeah.
I don't see that happening. And then I guess somewhat related to my last point too, many vintage cards to me, Troy, are not just sports cards, they're really pieces of history.
Yeah,
And they help tell the story of a player, the league, and really a time in North American life. An easy example, I'll point back to the 1951-52 Parkhurst set. And to me, why it's such an important set. Well, mainly people think will reference the big number of key rookies that are included in the set. And one of the reasons is because this set represents a return to hockey card
yeah.
production after a long hiatus due to World War II. But it also, in that, represents a return to normalcy
Hmm.
for many in North America. And if you kind of like are looking at these cards and think of that and what that represented, is that you have people whose lives were incredibly disrupted in an awful way in a world war. And now there's this set that comes out, and it's a signal that life is getting back to normal. And I don't know if you all might think that that's kind of hokey, but to me, I think that that's cool.
Yeah.
Any other pros that you would put in the what's great about vintage collecting category?
No, you kind of covered, but I like the one thing I keep falling back with vintage, and we've talked about it, it's like you said with Messier, even there's one rookie card. I don't have to worry about 25 different rookie cards, parallels, and all that. Or a Gordie Howe, 51 Parkers. I know what it is. There's that one out there. Will I ever be able to get one? Hopefully someday. But I really enjoy that piece of vintage collecting.
And that's a personality thing, because now we're going to transition to like cons list or drawbacks. And one of the first cons I put is there's not as much variety. Right. So some people want that variety. Other people like you may enjoy the simplification and just kind of knowing where to focus versus trying to sort through a lot of the cruft in between. Like you said, in most cases, there's one rookie card for a player. So, that doesn't give you a lot of options versus the modern collector where you have a million options, right, for all these key rookies. Another drawback that I thought of, Troy, is at one point, of course, there were 6 teams. We hear it referenced all the time, the original 6. Of course, the league has expanded for the last, 50 years to the point where we have 31, 32 teams now. But so if you are interested in vintage, there may not be cards for your favorite team in eras that you're looking at. So as an example, if you're a Kraken fan, would that make vintage 2022?
Or the Wild, we're 2000, I think is the Wild's first year.
And even the North Stars are like 1960s, so you can't even go back and look at pre-war. And so if you're a very big fan of a particular team that isn't in the original 6, then that might sort of limit your collecting options there. We sort of reference this, but vintage is also a little more nuanced, which again could be a pro. Some people like that, and is much slower paced. So again, depending on your personality type, you could see that as a negative or a positive. As an example, you might spend a year hunting for an upgrade in condition of a card you already have, and that's your chase versus trying to collect, the best of the 470 Cole Caulfield rookies. It's how do I get a little bit better PSA 8 of my Ken Dryden rookie? Maybe your chase is a vintage collector. I think a big one in the cons list for me, and there's really no way around this, is it's tough to have as deep of a connection to the player that you're collecting if they haven't played in 30 years and you've never seen them play a game. You referenced Gordie Howe. I really appreciate him too. We've learned a lot about him. I definitely appreciate him much more, but I still have never seen him play a game of hockey. And I never will. So it's harder to have that connection versus the guys that you followed and got to watch play and really understand the intricacies of the game. The next one that I put for kind of on the cons list or drawbacks is, fakes and counterfeits can be a big issue. It's a little bit on the modern side too with the fake patch issue, but I'd be really wary of buying raw vintage cards online. I don't know if you could ever get me to buy a raw Gretzky rookie on eBay or something.
No.
So I think that's something you have to be careful of as a vintage collector. Got 2 more. So depending on where you live, like not in Canada, these cards can be much harder to find in person, especially going back to what I just last said. We've mentioned this before on the show, but Troy and I grew up here in the state of hockey. Canada Light, as we call Minnesota, right? Closest thing you're going to get in the U.S. And neither of us had ever seen a 1951 Parkhurst in person until we went to the Expo in Toronto last year. It doesn't mean that there aren't any in the U.S. They're just not around. I mean, we've been around sports cards enough where you think we would have seen some at some point, and they're just very few and far between. So if you're in the U.S. particularly, it can be a little tougher to find. And then the last thing I put is sort of and this gets back to not seeing these guys play, that awareness and relevancy can be an issue at times. So I think of a guy like Guy Lafleur, who we talked about on our last show. The further we get away from his career, and unfortunately he's passed away now, the more he just becomes a name on a card, and less people understand how good he was and how dynamic he was and how awesome it was to watch him play. And nobody will, the less people will have that personal connection. So those are my drawbacks for vintage. You agree, disagree, have anything to add?
Agree. And just remember, any drawback can also be a pro for the modern, I guess.
It just goes back to personality. So the last thing we'll say on vintage is sort of, here's my tips for success, and Troy, you'll throw in yours too. The first thing that I've learned about vintage is always buy the card and not the grade. And this is a really big one to me. First of all, some of these cards were graded a long time ago, and maybe the standards were a little bit different, like when PSA was very, very new. But more importantly, and this is a big deal, there can be a huge difference in what some might consider like a low PSA 8 versus a high PSA 8. A great example is like a Gretzky rookie,
Yep.
where we've seen this in doing, and as Jeremy Lee goes through these Gretzky rookies on our PWCC Weekly show, that there's a massive difference between some of these cards at the exact same grade.
Yep.
Where in modern, it's kind of like PSA 10 or bust, or whatever, tag 10 or BGS 9.5, whatever your preferred grading company is. You can't just buy the number in vintage, because in a lot of cases too, Troy, these pop counts are so low and they're so scarce, and there isn't any PSA 10s, that you're looking at a 5 or a 6 or a 7, which any PSA 5, 6, or 7 is going to have issues with the cards. So then a lot of it comes down to, well, what are the flaws that I can live with the most versus I can't live? So maybe you're a centering guy, and that's really important to you. So you're going to want to find a well-centered PSA or 6 versus one that is really off-center but has amazing corners, or you don't like fish eyes. Whatever it is, you have to really examine the card and not the grade. I think with vintage, you have to take your time, do research. We say this all the time. Ask people in the hobby, get opinions, look for articles online, podcasts, whatever it is that can help you understand what you're buying. The next one is a big one too. And I think that there's a perception that people have that vintage, like the vintage market, looking at the dollars and cents of it, is so stable that they just don't ever go down. Well, all we have to do is go back and reference the Mark Messier rookie. So what that card, the high sale, that card was 25,000 and sells for like roughly 11,000 US right now, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a big swing in that card too. So sure, they're less volatile because the players aren't playing and the achievements have already been achieved, but they're going to follow whatever general market trends are affecting the overall hockey card market or the overall sports card market. And then the last sort of tip that I have on the vintage side is you have to be kind of willing to dig. It's a little bit more of a treasure hunt, I think. So if you're willing to travel a little bit, join online forums, niche Facebook groups, that'll help you find these diamonds in the rough. If you're a modern guy and you just, a flagship release goes up and there's 98 options of the Young Guns within the first 3 hours, it's not quite the treasure hunting experience. And again, that, just like you've said already, that mainly goes down to whatever your personality type is and kind of how you get satisfaction out of the hobby. Anything to add to that?
I'm going to say two things. One, and I'm going to reiterate, the whole buy the card, not the grade. That's, to me, is a huge thing. That's why I would probably, any of these really old vintage cards, I'm not buying online. I'm probably going to go see them. And a graded copy even makes me worried, unless it's something like where you have a picture like PWCC, where at least I can zoom in really far and see what it looks like and it's good. But if it's, I don't even know if ComC has vintage, but we've seen some issues with ComC scans. I don't want to buy a vintage card with that kind of quality. And then if you are looking for vintage cards and really rare ones, go to Toronto, go to the expo. It will probably be there, and you get to see it in person, and you can talk with a ton of collectors or maybe some hobby friends. And it's the one place to really find rare cards.
You'll have a lot of options too. We'll just have one to choose from typically, unless it's something crazy rare. So that's our little overview of vintage. Now we'll switch to modern, and we'll start with the pros of modern hockey card collecting. Well, it's kind of like a yin and yang, right? Of vintage a little bit, where there's a lot of variety, right? So if you love variety and more interesting cards like patch autos, all the different configurations, auto cards that they have now, all these crazy new printing technologies that are embossed or foiled or die cut or prismatic or chromed, right? You get all those kind of great effects as a modern hockey card collector. I think modern in general is more exciting for adrenaline junkies. So if you like riding the wave, making bets on players, then you're going to have fun collecting modern hockey cards, you get new product, right? Vintage doesn't change. There's nothing to open anymore if you like wax. And so you get that rush of excitement when new products come out, new card designs, new players that get added to the mix every year in the case of rookies. So that's a big one to me. And then again, going back to the yin and yang of vintage, you can see these guys play on TV and
Yep.
especially in person. And I really think too, we were lucky enough to have wild season tickets for a lot of years before our kids got too busy in sports. And when you see a player in person, it really helps you, especially with hockey, it really
Yeah.
helps you appreciate the nuance to their game, what makes a special player unique, and I just think a greater appreciation of their skill set. Do you feel the same way about that, being able to see
Well,
people live, and even going back to your childhood, how that impacted who you
yeah,
liked and followed?
for sure. Seeing it live, but also seeing it up close. Because I think a lot of people forget an NHL size rink is about the size of your rink at the local ice arena.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy to see how fast these guys are. And I know it's a step up watching college hockey, but then you go watch NHL hockey. Holy cow, these guys are unbelievable and how fast they are and how big they are. And
Yeah.
it definitely gives you an appreciation for the game. And like you said, your Tage Thompson example, like you saw him in person, and you're like, holy cow, this guy's a man among boys for this game.
Yep. Another thing I think that's kind of a pro or is cool about the modern hockey card market is the tie-in between games and the market itself.
Yep.
It's fun when Kaprizov scores 4 goals in a night and you and I go to eBay and see like a brief bump in his card prices. I don't
Yep.
know. It gives you that like
Yeah.
little dopamine rush. So who doesn't like that?
Yep.
And then last thing I had is because a lot of the modern sets do feature cards from legendary players. If you're a
Mhm.
modern collector, you still get a little bit of that vintage fix. Now, it's
Yeah.
not a 60-year-old card, but who doesn't like opening a set of, well, whether it be like Black Diamond today or Stature, right, that came out last week? And I don't think anyone's going to be mad if you have a Mario Lemieux patch
No.
auto in that card, right? And so you get a little bit of both in the modern collecting. And then here's my cons list of modern hockey card
Yeah.
collecting. So weirdly, Troy, I think there can be too much variety at sometimes. You get
For
overwhelmed
sure.
with options. Like we're feeling that right now with the new releases. We're going to talk
Yes.
about it later in each one.
$7.99, $9.99, $3.99. Geez.
Or we have sets coming out every week,
Yeah.
right? It's hard to figure out like, well, what is it I actually want to collect? What
Yep.
am I going to appreciate as I invest my money in? And so it can, like I said, get overwhelming at times. And as part of that too, it's harder to sift through and figure out what really has value. And what I mean by value, I don't mean just what's going to be worth the most money, but it's going to be the most meaningful to your collection. What are the cards that 10 years from now you're going to be like, oh, thank God I have this card in my collection? And there's just so much of this like manufactured scarcity, this term I've been using a lot lately, where you get all these like crazy cards that are out of 25 or parallels, galores, like we've seen with Stature. There's a
Yep.
million photo
Yep.
variations. And it kind of tricks you to think that I think in some cases these cards are like more rare or more valuable as a collector or as a investment item or flip item than they actually are. And so it's hard to sift through that and figure out where the true value lies. The biggest con would be the volatility, right?
Yep.
Everyone has the fantasy of finding that one card on eBay or in a dollar box at a LCS or at a card show of a young prospect that you really believe in, and 2 years later that guy is Jack Hughes now, where you've turned your $5 card into $5, right? That's a
Yep.
fantasy. It's like going to buy a lottery ticket, same sort of thing. What we probably, Troy, though, purposefully forget, at least I know I do, is about the can't miss prospect that we spent a huge amount of money on that now is just average.
Yep.
Like, hello, Laffy. We haven't done a Laffy joke in a few shows, right? So we
Yeah.
can
Well, Laffy, hey, did you see Laffy resigned today? I think 2
Okay.
years, 2 point some million. So now I was reading a bunch of comments on the signing, and now it's like, well, now they're going to get good value for him, which, hey, he could end up, if he plays well, second line and start producing, which I think would make a lot of people happy. It's kind of
good.
struggle.
Yeah. And I don't want listen, we never root for cards to go down,
Yeah.
but it is a good example though, where There's people that spend $10,000 on his cards at some point, and they're worth pennies on the dollar right now, at least for what they were. And we tend to forget that. So for every instance of somebody that finds a diamond in the rough, there's probably 15 instances of people that spent way too much money on that can't miss prospect, and it didn't work out. Steve Yzerman will always be great. You don't have to worry about him panning out, and so you have that volatility in just how good these guys are going to be. And then staying along the volatility theme, Troy, is pop count volatility. Sometimes like you might buy a young gun for your favorite player, and then a year later the PSA 10 pop counts increased by 4,000, which kind of kills the value. You know anything about that?
I do. I know. See, we can take shots at ourselves too, people. We know.
So there's a lot of volatility or volatility. Oh geez. The next thing that I have on sort of my cons list is that, and we've referenced this already, but the price of potential most often outweighs the price of greatness. In so many cases, what people will spend for a modern patch auto card for a player who may never achieve greatness, or you could buy like a very, very, very nice scarce vintage card. So I'm going to give an example here and it's not like throwing Laffy under the bus or anything like that. It's of a good player. So right now, I just mentioned Steve Yzerman a second ago. You can buy a 1984 OPG, so the good one, Steve Yzerman rookie PSA 10 pop 123 for about $4,100 US. It's a lot, but $4,100. So this past April, somebody bought a Jack Hughes Cup RPA at a 99 BGS 9 for $8,500 US. So more than double what a PSA 10 OPG Yzerman rookie costs. And what's kind of crazy when you think about it, again, I like Jack Hughes a lot. I'm really big. So this is not a bash Jack Hughes thing. It's just more of a perspective kind of example. Is that you have to ask yourself, will Jack Hughes have as good or better career than Steve Yzerman? Because if you just go based on the value and no other context, he should have double the career that Steve Yzerman had, which is, of course, impossible. And so you think of like when you spend $8,500 on a young prospect who just had 99 points for the first time, looks very promising, who's very exciting, the odds of him being as good as Steve Yzerman are minuscule, right? And that's not a knock on Jack Hughes either. But Steve Yzerman is one of the greatest players of all time. And so what that brings you back to is it's just the reality, and whether it should or shouldn't be, it just is that the value of potential is always more than the value of greatness or achievement. It's just weird when you think about how our brains work that way.
I've done it. I've done it myself. I know exactly what you're talking about. This hits right in the fields because it's like I can just sit there and shake my head and be like, there's times where I've spent money where I'm like, why didn't I just go get, let's say, the Yzerman OPG PSA 10? Why did I buy this other card? I want to say one thing. I was thinking about what your comment on the adrenaline piece and how that applies to more modern. And it's true because if I like breaks, I want to do a lot of breaks. Guess what? You're not breaking. No one's breaking 54, 55 Parkhurst cards or anything like that. So you're kind of stuck with modern. Some guys might rip some 90 Pro set, but we know that's kind of the junk era. but if you're an adrenaline junkie, you're kind of locked into modern cards or break junkie, I should say.
I have seen some vintage breaks, but they're not, and I've seen more in baseball, like where they'll do like the 1952 Topps baseball set, and you get it's whatever X amount of a lot, like hundreds for a spot, and then it's a random, and you get like a number. So whatever number you get that card in the set, and so if the Mickey Mantle, I can't remember what card number it is. If you get that number, then you get the Mickey Mantle. If you get the some schlub, that's who you get. But those, they're just not. I mean, who has a 52 Topps baseball set or a 51 Parker set to auction off? Like, you can't do that every night. Like, I was watching today with Black Diamond coming out, people are going through case after case right now,
just constant cases. Even stature, I think I've seen, who knows, hundreds of cases probably be ripped.
A lot of stature. Okay, so here's my tips for success in Modern. You have to be planful and mindful and not let FOMO. We talked about FOMO a lot in our common mistakes hockey collectors make episode a few shows back. Lead you all over the place in the
Yeah.
hobby as new stuff, shiny new cards come out and are distracted. We're all like the squirrel that looks around all the time. So I think you really have to think about what is it that you like, what is it you value, what do you want in your collection.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I have is don't just assume any new product release is going to have lasting desirability and value. Learn to separate the best stuff from the cruft. And then last thing I had, Troy, is collecting heavily into one player is way, way more risky in modern
Yeah.
collecting. I think diversifying is way more important. If you're a Wayne Gretzky collector and you have 1,000 Gretzky cards, you're going to be a lot safer than if you have 1,000 Kaprizov cards today. As much as I love my guy Kaprizov, you just have to admit it's a way bigger risk because we don't know what's going to happen to his career. Is he going to continue to go up, or could he get hurt or get jailed in Russia or something like crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy. So you're saying my Pecorenes are pretty safe because they're not even worth that much to begin with.
Yeah, those are safe for different reasons. He was good, but nobody really wants him, so it's good for you. Okay, so here's my conclusions in all this. And
Yeah.
I'm going to start or finish where we started.
Yep.
There's no real way to objectively say one category is better than the other. We hear that all the time. Like vintage is better, modern is better, but it's just an opinion.
Yeah.
It's subjective. It's whatever you like the best. It does not mean whatever somebody else is going to feel the same way. A lot of it, I think, comes down to your age and generation of the legends that played. Like, again, if you're 60 years old and you got to watch Wayne Gretzky play every game, you're going to be a much bigger fan of Wayne Gretzky than if you're 14 and have been there for Connor McDavid's career.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how this thing works. And a lot of it, again, goes back to personality type. If you're more of like a slow and steady wins the race, then vintage is going to probably appeal more to you. Or if you're a guy that will double down on a pair of threes, then you're probably more of a modern collector. So doubling down on a pair of threes, that's your big move in Vegas, right?
No way. No, I'm really good at blackjack. At least I know what I'm supposed to do. It's not like I don't win anything, but I know what I'm supposed to do. I still never win because I'm not a card. I don't card count, so I don't swing the deck in my favor that small percentage. But
so again, while there's of course a lot of similarities between the two, there are key differences. And to be successful in whatever your collecting goals are, I think you just need to take the time, learn more about each, not make assumptions that every principle that you've learned from modern collecting is going to translate to vintage.
Yeah.
That they're different, and you got to treat them as such. So I don't know. Hopefully this helps. Again, I was glad to see in our poll that so many people collect both. That's what I would love to see throughout the hobby. Anything you have to wrap up the vintage versus modern?
No, I like it. A good discussion. I hope people find enjoyment in it. I still go back to the whole Instagram poll, but still, I think 4% is high for people that collect vintage only, but are on Instagram. That kind of cracks me up.
Yeah, fair enough. We need to make a mention for Gongshow partner and sponsor Slab Sharks. Many thanks to them for their support. The current Slab Sharks weekly eBay auction ends tonight, as it does every Thursday night. There's a bunch of awesome hockey cards in the auction, so be sure to head to slabsharks.com for a link to the auction so you can find the cards you like and place your bids. If you're listening to the show later and have missed this week's auction, no worries. Once one ends, another begins, and they always have great hockey cards. If you are a Canadian hockey card collector and are looking to move some cards for cash, Troy and I would recommend considering Slab Sharks for their eBay consignment services. They have great payout rates, make it super easy to sell your cards, and they're very popular and growing weekly eBay auctions. So they're going to take all of your images, they're going to list the cards, answer buyer questions, hunt down payment, ship them to the buyers, including shipping to the US. And then they'll handle any post-auction issues, which is amazing because that's the worst. When you sell a card, you ship it, and then you get that message from someone, you're like, ugh.
It says delivered, but what was it?
Slab Sharks does it.
Just wait till tomorrow.
Yeah. For complete consignment information, payout rates, and to get started, make sure you check out slabsharks.com. Happy news, Troy.
All right.
Well, some sad news on to Norway.
Oh boy.
Norway's broke. Norway.
My motherland, my homeland ran out of money. Can't put the hockey together.
the Norwegian national team has been shut down for the time being, Troy, because the organization lost $9 million in
Wow.
2022. So every team but the J20, so it must be like the junior national team, will cease operations moving forward. Not that things have been going particularly peachy for our Norwegian friends hockey team as of late. They finished Troy in 13th place in the last 3 consecutive World Championships and failed to qualify for the 2022 Winter Olympics.
I
So being a
wonder. I was gonna
Go
say. I
ahead.
was wondering if did you see anything about them getting? There is kind of a regulation system in the World Championships. There's actually tiers below, like what Canada and the U.S. play in. They'll be like, I think Japan and Australia, Great
Oh,
Britain have teams, and they actually play in the World Championships, but it's a whole nother tier down, and they might play at different dates. So I was curious if you saw anything about Norway might get regulated.
yeah. I don't know if it's like soccer, but that's a good question. Part of what surprised me in seeing the story is as sort of a dumb American, and with Norway being a Scandinavian country, I
Yep.
kind of assumed they would be good at hockey and was a little bit surprised to learn that they don't have like a very rich hockey history. In fact, Troy, so this got me, I looked up the greatest NHL player from Norway, like ranking lists,
Ooh.
and on a bunch of them, could you guess? Well, we'll go with the hockey writers since we use them for our greatest player. Who do you think
Oh
they
boy.
ranked as the greatest NHL player ever from Norway?
Is it? No, it's not. Is Bjorkstrand's not Norwegian? Is he? He might be
Okay.
Danish because it's got to be someone recent, right? I can't even think of a Norwegian. Wait a sec. Or is he from Sweden? The wild guy. What's his name? Uh,
Can't help you.
Not Hartman. The other guy, the crazy guy. Zuccarello. He's sweet.
Yes.
Is he Sweden? He's Norwegian. He's
Matt
Norwegian. Yeah, there we go. Is that the
Matt
greatest?
Zuccarello is the greatest NHL
There we
player ever
go.
from Norway. I love him. I mean, him and Kirill have a great chemistry. They just don't
I
have
only
center.
know that because I'm a Wild fan. I would have never got that if I didn't know who the Wild players were.
So, do you want to make, given Norway is your homeland, are you going to make a personal commitment and pledge to kind of write the Norwegian hockey
Oh
balance sheet right
man.
now, Troy? And all you got to do is divert a little bit
Yep.
of your hockey wax money, and you'll be.
Stop buying wax. So I looked this up while you were talking. I'm gonna move this over. Check this out. This is from last season. Number of players from each country in the NHL. Here's Norway. 1. Our boy.
Wow.
1 player from the. That's pretty. Oh, I didn't realize it was that low. That's crazy.
I wonder
Nice.
why hockey isn't a bigger deal there. Somebody from Norway message us and
Cross
explain
country
that.
skiing, right? Don't they just dominate cross country skiing in the Olympics?
Well, what's the where they cross country ski and
Oh,
then they shoot guns?
biathlon.
Biathlon. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so the next story, I'll admit
Oh,
I forgot about this, Troy. So before you go,
yeah.
I got to mention this. So we get a lot of messages from people, and somebody was talking about the show, and they said, "Can't wait for the Kessel McDavid comparison." For about 3 hours, I'm like, "What are they talking?" And I think this was Monday, the day our show came out. That's how bad my memory is. And then I'm like, "Oh yeah, Troy had referenced some sort
Yep.
of Kessel McDavid comparison you saw online." So I'm gonna hand the conch
All
to you,
right.
Troy, and turn it over.
All right. This is just fantastic. I'm glad this is like one of those, I don't know what you call it, comedic relief moments of the show. So there was this comparison graphic going around of Kessel versus McDavid, and it cracked me up so much that I just had to share. I'll put it on the screen in a sec. But the graphic I saw was posted by an Instagram account. It's called _Binner_memes. So that's the one I'm going to show. So I'm guessing I'm giving them credit. But if anyone saw it somewhere else, let me know. I want to make sure I give it to the right person. But I think it was _Binner_memes. And this thing is just great. So I'm going to put it up on the screen and then I'll also read it for our audio only listeners. So Josh, here it is. It's going to be hard to read probably unless you make your screen really big. But the best part of the title, it's like Kessel versus Connor McDavid, player comparison. Who's better? And then the comment the account puts, never compare the GOAT to McBust ever again.
Oh, geez.
And I just started cracking up. So I got to read these. Phil Kessel, Stanley Cups 3, McDavid, none. Career points, Kessel 992, McDavid 850. Career goals, Kessel's got 413, McDavid 303. Kessel holds the Ironman record. McDavid does not hold the Ironman record. Kessel won a cup without even playing. McDavid can't win a cup even when playing. Kessel gave Vegas their first ever cup. McDavid has gave Edmonton 0 conference final wins. Career playoff points, Kessel has 83, McDavid 75. Playoff goals, Kessel has 34, McDavid has 29. Kessel has played for 5 teams. McDavid has played for only 1 team. No one else wants him. Kessel, 286 points in a youth hockey season. McDavid only had 209 in a youth hockey season.
Yeah, 286 points in a youth hockey season.
I'm telling you, Phil Kessel is a freak. And we always laugh about his like physical stature and stuff, but he is a hockey playing freak. So Kessel has 16 Conn Smythe votes, 7 first place votes. McDavid has no Conn Smythe votes.
True.
Kessel was the last pick in the 2011 All-Star draft. McDavid was never drafted in an All-Star draft. And I think that's probably because I don't know if they did it anymore when McDavid got in the lead. And then last one is Kessel ate hot dogs out of the Stanley Cup. McDavid has never even sniffed Lord Stanley. I just cracked up. This was a hilarious comparison. Whoever did it, great job. This bitter_means if it's you guys, fantastic work.
That is one of those, it does point out kind of the absurdity at times about how like our perception drives who we value and who we, put on pedestals, right? Because if you had never seen a hockey game and just put those achievements side by side, you would pick Kessel as the better player. Which, of course, we know is not the truth. So fantastic. That's awesome. I hadn't seen that either. Well, it wouldn't be a show if we didn't talk about a little bit of hobby drama.
Oh no, hobby drama's back.
Hobby drama's back. So the latest twist, Troy, in the Panini Fanatics saga unfolded Monday when the NFLPA sent notice that it immediately terminated its agreement with Panini and assigned trading card rights for players' names and likeness to Fanatics. It seemed to catch almost everyone off by surprise. Yeah. There's like lots of emergency content going on. Where when big things like this usually come, it gets leaked beforehand, right? That's so the fact that it sort of came out of nowhere, I thought was interesting. I think it was the sports business guy, Darren Ravel. That broke the story on this one. So yeah, I guess credit goes to him on that. And on one hand, I think as a hockey card collector, you might view this as entertaining. It's kind of like sitting on your porch sipping a lemonade when like police are breaking down the door of the house across the street, right? We're like, oh, what do we care?
Yeah.
But part of me too, though, is it's a signal of instability in the market.
Yep.
And we'll get in that a little bit. So I actually don't think this is great, even for us as hockey card collectors. Panini did send out a statement responding saying, we believe this is totally unwarranted and proper action by the NFL Players Association in conjunction with Fanatics, especially in the light of the unprecedented sales by Panini or NFL trading cards. Yeah, it's a lot of like PR and
all the lawyer speak and the PR stuff. Come on.
Panini has grown the category, blah, blah, blah. They're basically, I'm not going to read it. It's lame. They're blaming Fanatics. But I want to get back to the sort of the whole point of instability in the just the general card market, because football cards are huge.
Yeah.
And a result of this, right? So if the NFLPA is immediately signing the rights of names and likeness to Fanatics, well, Panini still has the agreement with the NFL for the team name.
Yep.
So how does Panini produce cards where they can say like, well, the Green Bay Packers or Minnesota Vikings, but they can't have any player or likeness on the card? And it basically puts Fanatics in the position of like doing like kind of what Panini does for baseball, where you'd have unlicensed football cards. Nobody wins here. This is awful. For collectors.
It's crazy because then too, the agreement, the NFLPA said the agreement was terminated immediately. Yeah. So it's supposed to be done. Hey, guess what's coming out in like next week? There's football cards coming out. So this is going to go through the courts. It's going to go quick. It'll be interesting to see how fast it moves, but this is ending up in a courtroom.
My only wish here, because ultimately it's just big companies battling it out,
Yeah.
is that the collector and the customer is a strong consideration in this. So
Yep.
for these guys to duke it out over the next year and have no football cards is obviously horrible
Yeah.
for the football hobby, and would, I think, impact the hockey hobby negatively too.
Yeah.
Because
And I
we always
hope.
say like high tide raises all ships.
Yep.
Well, no tide can't be good either. So
Yeah. I think it could be a learning lesson too for Upper Deck and the NHL and the NHLPA just to kind of watch what happens and how it unfolds. Because who knows? Fanatics. I don't think Fanatics is going quietly into the night with other sports. They might still try to go after hockey at some point again.
well, and with their lawsuit, it seems like Panini poked the bear.
Yeah, they did.
Maybe
They
not a
poked
good
it.
idea. Looks like Fanatics hits back. So
Yeah.
again, as a hockey card collector, it doesn't there isn't like an immediate or direct tie-in, but it does affect the sports card hobby as a whole. So I
Yeah.
think it's something for us to keep an eye on. We're gonna move on to we're gonna make a declaration on this show. I want to present evidence that I think Mark Messier is the ultimate hobby buddy. Look at him. Even though he doesn't look all mean and intimidating
No.
in that picture, he's very bosom buddy there with his good friend Wayne Gretzky. So here's how this started. Many times when we're putting our show together and it's a greatest player and it's a really big name like
Yep.
Messier or Mario Lemieux or Greg Gretzky, something like that, we'll want to do something a little bit later in the show to kind of tie back into that player, give them a little bit more love and appreciation. And one of the sort of go-tos, because I just think it's interesting, is especially with vintage guys to look at the big cards or the big most valuable cards that are not their rookie cards,
Yep.
because they get so synonymous with their rookie card.
Yep.
It's like, well, what else is out there if you wanted to be a Messier collector? So that was my goal when we were putting the episode together. I wanted to go do some searches, get rid of anything from 1980.
Mhm.
And when I did that, I was like, couldn't believe what I was seeing. So, and it changed kind of the theme of this segment. So, Troy, almost every big Messier sale, aside from his rookie cards, are autos with other players, right? And
That
so
it's crazy.
I'm going to give some stats in a minute, but I just want to go through. So we're going to kind of
Yep.
stick to the bit. We're going to go through his top 5 non-rookie sales, and you'll see they're all sales from other players or with other cards that have autos with other players. So the first one's like the number 5 is a 13 Panini Prime signatures that has Messier, Lemieux, Howe out of 25 BGS 9. It sold for $3,500 US by eBay on April 26th of this year. Cool card,
Yeah.
right? Who doesn't love? Everybody loves these cards. The number 4 top selling non-rookie card is a 2007-8 OPG Premier Foursomes that has Messier, Gretzky, Howe, and Marcel Dion out of 15 raw. That sold for $3,750 US dollars in January of 2022. The number 3 card, same year, 2007-8, but it's an Upper Deck Ice Frozen Foursome. I think it's like Jersey Auto card. This one, little tiny Jersey swatches that has Messier, Lemieux, Gretzky, and Howe. It's out of 5, BGS 9, sold for $3,932 US in November of 2022. So we're seeing the theme here.
Yep.
Number 2 card, 2020 SP Authentic, Sign of the Times 8. So here's one of these 8-way auto cards, 4 on the front, 4 on the back. It has Messier, Gretzky, Lemieux, Howe, Yager, Yzerman, Sakic, and there's one more. I couldn't see the back of the card. And in the listing, they only put 7. So would have to look it up on the checklist or something like that.
It's probably, oh no, it's too late. I was gonna say now Yakupov. He always seems to be that extra player.
Some rando. So this is a PSA 10. It sold for $5,973 US in December of 2022.
I like this card. That's really cool.
Very cool card. And then the number 1 is a 2014 SP Authentic Sign of the Times 3. It has Messier, Gretzky, and Lemieux. It's out of 15. A PSA 10 Auto 10 sold for $7,000 US last August 3rd. So all the top 5 non-rookie cards are autos with other players.
Yep.
So I looked up, Troy. There's been 71 Messier cards that have sold for more than $1,000 that are not his rookie card. Of those 71 sales, only 4 are cards that have Mark Messier by himself.
Wow.
67 are multiple player auto cards. So of those 4 cards, there's 3 green PMGs from 2012 Fleer Retro, and then there's a 1981, which is a second year OPG PSA 10 that sold for just over $1,000, probably during the pandemic.
Yeah.
4 of the 71 are sole Messier cards. So I'm going to ask you, Troy, has the court supplied enough information to you to name Mark Messier the ultimate hockey hobby buddy? All of his good cards are with us.
I think the court, or you've supplied enough information to the court. It's crazy. It's not like there was some filter you had to hit to say, give me, dual cards, or play with cards with more than one player. I'm so flabbergasted. I can't even talk because I'm so flabbergasted by only 4 Messier cards without another player at his top. Was it 71 sales that were not the 1980 rookie cards or not 1980 cards? That's crazy. This whole segment has been a fun fact. I love it.
Well, I thought I was doing my search wrong at some point. I'm like, wait a minute, where are all the Messier cards? It's just Messier and Gretzky and Howe all over the place. Yeah. I guess that's what collectors want. Okay, it's time for our PWCC Weekly Hockey Preview. PWCC Gongshow partner and sponsor, of course. Want to thank them for their support of our show. The August Premier Auction ends tonight. So he said this publicly, so I think we can say it, but the 3 hockey cards in the Premier, the Future Watch autos for for Crosby, Ovechkin, and McDavid, all PSA 10s.
Yep.
Are Jeremy Lee, so go bid them up. Crazy cards. Man, that guy's got some great hockey cards. And be interesting to see where those end. But for our purposes, the PWCC Weekly is more within our budget, Troy. That ends this Sunday. I think there's something like 156 hockey cards in the auction. And like we do each week, you and I have picked out our favorite vintage and modern cards that we're going to highlight. Again, these cards and every other card in the auction is available to bid right now on PWCCmarketplace.com. So we're going to start with vintage. And I'm actually excited about this one because I found some fun facts for it.
Nice.
It was hard to pass this one up, Troy. 1985 OPG Mario Lemieux BGS 9.5. My guess is this is the biggest card in the weekly auction. It's a bucket list kind of card for just about, I would say, any hockey card collector. I don't know who wouldn't want one. This one, though, is a min gem. So that means it has 3 9.5 subgrades and a 9. And the 9 happens to be on the surface of this one. So it's got I think the big thing to know, given it's a min gem, is that it does have a gem mint centering grade, which I think was what most people would probably care about most. Being the OPG Lemieux rookie too does make it more desired by collectors. So here's the pop count for BGS 9.5 is 86. Again, going back to our vintage versus modern, very low pop count. There's 48 PSA 10s and 10 SGC 10s. So the total pop count for gem mints is 144, which is what we're trying to do more and more, is not just give the gem mint pop count for one grading company, but try to give people a sense of what the total population is out there. And as an aside, as I was looking at this, Troy, I really wish BGS would break up their pop report by the cards that are min gem, true gem plus, and true gem plus. I think that'd be really helpful because there can be a huge difference in the value between a min gem and a true gem. And of the, 86 BGS 9.5s, there's really, well, I guess if you did a ton of research, it would be difficult to find out what the breakdown is.
Yeah.
Is that something you would like to see too?
I would like better names than true gem plus. True gem
plus minus divide.
It would help. I mean, again, BGS, one of their advantages is having those subgrades. So they have to do anything they can to play to that. And I think if having it broken out in some kind of report by each one of those, I think that would be beneficial. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mario Lemieux, of course, is on many collectors' Mount Rushmore. Easy kind of choice there. He played 915 games, had 690 goals, 1,033 assists for 1,723 points. It's only Troy, 0.75 goals per game and 1.67 points per game. It's pretty good. we've covered Lemieux a lot and gone through all his bio before, so I didn't want to rehash everything, and I actually spent time. I wanted to find little nuggets about Lemieux that we haven't brought up before. Someone might call, like Troy might call it a fun fact. So here I got 3, okay? And you got to tell me if these impress you or not. So in this first one, I'll admit you might have already brought up. Lemieux is one of those guys that scored his first goal in his first game during his first shift and with his first shot.
Yep. Impressive.
Lemieux at the time, even in his playing career, was a heavy smoker. He was quoted in a 1987 in an article about smoking in the NHL as saying he picked it up in juniors. So for a good part of his career, he was a big-time cigarette smoker.
I had no clue about that. Holy cow.
And this next one, I can't conceptualize. Now, you have to tell me, would you do this for your son? To help him practice when the rinks went dark at night, Mario Lemieux's father would pack the hallways of their house with snow so he could skate up and down the halls.
Would I do that? No, because the snow would immediately melt and cause issues. I bet they had some kind of like outdoor walkway or something to their house. I don't know. This one seems a little fairy tale-ish, but who knows? Maybe they did. I wouldn't put it past people. I've seen some pretty crazy stuff on the socials.
So I'm going to assume you'd love to have a nice copy of a OPG Lemieux rookie. I know you have a couple tops.
Yeah, I have a couple. Yeah, that when I was a kid, I have a couple tops, but they're not anywhere near decent shape.
Did I do good on my fun facts?
You did. I like the fun facts. The smoking one, I had no clue he smoked.
That's crazy. Last sale of a 1985 OPG Mario Lemieux BGS 9.5 was $6,000 in May of 2022, so a little bit ago. All-time high, 27,600. Holy cow.
Wow.
Big difference there in January of 2021. For context, Troy, last sale on a PSA 10 was 44,400. So big premium.
Yeah.
You pay for a PSA 10. Current bid is what on this card?
$1,700.
All right. Okay, you had the next vintage card.
I do, and this is crazy, Josh. It's kind of funny how things work out. So I believe it was 2 episodes ago, 109, I selected the 70 OPG Gordie Howe, and I noted that it was his last OPG base set card with the Detroit Red Wings during his playing career. And it worked out because it was episode 109. We did Howe is now the greatest number 9. Well, then I also mentioned that next year OPG came out with a special commemorative card. Guess what card is up for auction in this week's PWCC? Here it is. The 1971 OPG, they call it Retirement Special, Gordie Howe. So I guess that worked out pretty well. And I would like to say I planned that and knew it, but I had no clue. And I saw
there's a lot going on in that card. Like I'm guessing that blew people away at the time.
Oh my God. I kind of mentioned, so it's okay. I take a step back. It's a 71 OPG Retirement Special card. So they're commemorating, he's retired. We're going to put out this sweet card. And you look at this card, and I really do think it's kind of a special card because it's almost like a fever dream, right? I love fever dream cards, and it's got a really cool design. I think you look at it, it screams 70s. It's very colorful. It's got a great picture of Howe. There's a facsimile auto. It says Mr. Hockey and has his number on it. They've actually encompassed everything about Gordie Howe on this one card. And while it's busy, I actually think it works. I actually really dig how they did this card.
Yeah.
And if you look, it's now one thing, it's a horizontal card. So some people don't like horizontal cards. I know they look kind of goofy in the holders. This one's got a PSA 9 rating or grading. So just be aware of that. The centering looks really good. It's slightly off left to right. If you zoom in enough, you can see corners look really good. They're maybe not 100% right angles on all of them, but they're really, really close. There's some slight fraying around the left edge. Right edge looks really, really nice. But again, I love how this card looks. I love the color. I love all the elements. For how busy it is, I think it actually works.
Yeah.
So here's another kind of a fun fact I found is that in this 1971 OPG set, there was another special retirement card for Jean Bellevue. I didn't know that he retired right around the same year, I think, as Howe, or right around then. So he had a special retirement card too, which I will show on screen. No, I don't. I didn't bring it up. Never mind. All right. So the Gordie Howe PSA 9 has a pop of 34, and there's only 2 graded higher. There's a good chunk of cards graded lower, as the total graded count by PSA is around 653.
Wow.
And right now, current bid is $72. I actually forgot to write down what past sales were, so I will look that up while you talk about the next card.
Okay. So the next one that we're going to highlight from the vintage side is, again, 1997. So we're calling it vintage. But it's a 97 SPX Wayne Gretzky Dual View Auto out of 100, PSA 8 with an auto grade 10. So, Troy, this is the 3rd straight week in the PWCC Weekly where there's really a monster 90s Gretzky insert in the auction. So 2 weeks ago, we had a 1998 Bowman's Best Atomic Refractor out of 100 PSA 9. Then last week, it was a 1997 Pinnacle Totally Certified Mirror Gold out of 30 PSA 8. And now this week, we have the 97 SPX Dual View Auto PSA 8. It makes you wonder if a big collector is offloading. They're kind of doing it week to week because it seems awfully coincidental that there's 3 weeks in a row. And now I'm kind of excited for next week's auction. I hope the next one doesn't stop. So the Dual View from 1997 XPX is a die cut. It includes 2 hologram images of Gretzky on the left, where one of them has the auto over one of those holograms. At PSA 8, it's a pop 5. There are none graded higher. Well, numbered autos are really common today. They were not so common in the mid to late 90s, which I think is a big factor why these cards are so valuable. And another big factor of why I think these Gretzkys in particular from the 90s are so cool is they were still produced and released while he was playing. He was deep in the turtleneck era, playing for the Rangers at the time. So to me, this is an interesting card, and I'm quite curious your thoughts. Is that because it's a big card, and it's an early Gretzky auto. It's an early Gretzky low serial numbered card. And so, of course, that's going to make it special. But do you like the design of these SPX Duo Views?
I do like the design, but the thing is you have to like hold it in person. This picture does not do it justice.
It's hard.
It's really hard to get a good picture of these. They kind of remind me how like Jambalayas are. He's horrible online, but then you look at them in hand, they kind of really are cool. This is one of those too. You can see the design elements, but it's got the lighting's got to be right to see it, and you got to see it in person.
That's a great point. Just because it's amazing that Card Ladder sales history goes back so far that I'll tend to geek out on stuff like this. So in 2019, you could have bought a raw copy of this card for $400.
Wow.
The only sale, Troy, for a 97 SPX Gretzky Dual View Auto out of 100 PSA 8 was $11,700 in July of 2022.
Wow.
Partly shows you how much of the value of these 90 inserts and parallels have gone up in the past couple of years. Do you got a current bid on this one?
So current bid's $550. And then
good deal.
I'm going to go back to the 71 OPG Gordie Howe. I just quickly went through Terra Peak. There was a PSA 9 sale in May for $600. And right now the current bid on that one is $72. So take that.
And good deal territory right now.
Good deal territory, but they will go up, I promise you.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay, let's switch to modern.
All right.
The first card that stood out to me, would you have picked this one if I didn't?
I don't think so. Even though I do like the Allure rainbows. I kind of like. I dig what they kind of tried to do with those, but I try to stay away from McDavid unless it's a big card because we always talk about McDavid.
Can be a little redundant. I get that.
Yeah.
I was more interested in the card itself, and then just the McDavid was sort of the icing on the cake. And it's a 2021 Allure Connor McDavid green blue rainbow out of 299 PSA 10. I really think that. Or I was impressed with the changes and improvements that Upper Deck made to Allure this year. Most of the conversations around the 16-bit inserts, which were a huge hit, of course. But another really cool set in Allure are these color-connected rainbows, where often people have always, called it collecting the rainbow of all the different colored parallels that are typically numbered. Well, Upper Deck took it a step further and actually designed the cards to fit each other and sort of connect, where the colors kind of continue based on each parallel. Basically looks, I think, really cool. And so to build the rainbow for McDavid or any other, there's 100 players on the checklist in 2021 Allure, you would need 5 cards. So it's the most common was a red orange that it was in 1 in 4 hobby packs. Then there was an orange yellow that's in 1 in 12 hobby packs. Then a yellow green, which is 1 in 20. And then the 2 numbered ones are the green blue, which is this card in the auction, which is out of 299, and then a blue purple out of 199. So that if you think about it, it limits the total potential of people that could ever complete the rainbow at 299. And I actually think the more that I've let it soak in and the more time that's gone on, it's actually to me a really good balance between maintaining a little bit of scarcity in anyone that would get the rainbow, but also making it attainable too. If the last card was out of 4, it would never happen, right? To be able to collect the rainbow. So given that the most rare card is out of 199, it should give you plenty of opportunity if this is a little set goal that you have or something like that. So you're a fan of these color connected rainbows?
I'm a fan. The more I look at them, the more I wish that because I know people are going to want to get this graded. I wish PSA could do some special holder where you could put them all together. Maybe above each card, it would have the grade of each card.
Oh, yeah.
I dig stuff like that because I know if you get these and you put them in 5 different slabs, it's going to look kind of ridiculous. I would want to see them in one frame. And I think that's what I think Upper Deck was intending with these is you put them together right next to each other. Hey, you can see the completed rainbow. But that's me.
A PSA 10 is not sold to this point. It does have a pop 5. So there's been 7 submitted. 5 have got a PSA 10. It's numbered out of 299 again, remember. So the last sale for a raw 2021 Allure McDavid green blue rainbow out of 299 was $27 on July 30th. So I don't know, the PSA 10 might be 100, 150, something like that. And that's another reason why I picked this is naturally we often sort of gravitate to the spendier cards.
Yep.
And to me, this was an example of a cool card that's not thousands of dollars. So, well, you got a current bid?
$31 US. All
right, you got the next modern card?
I do. And oh boy, look at that zoomed in. That's way zoomed in. So this is Josh, my boy, I guess, Crosby. I guess now I'm a Crosby guy since
you are. Yeah.
I love this card. So it's a 2005 SPX hockey. Sidney Crosby, rookie patch auto out of 499 PSA 10 gem mint. All right. So going through the auction or the PWCC Weekly, this card just kind of jumped out at me right away. I did a sort by price, but then I saw this card. It's Sidney Crosby. It's got a piece of memorabilia. It's from 2005. And it's got an auto. It's serial numbered out of 499. Kind of hit a lot of good buttons for me. I wanted to look.
It's horizontal, apparently.
It's horizontal. That's 2 horizontal cards for me. But I really like the look of it. I love the background color, the goldish, kind of matches the Penguins. I dig how the jersey piece is kind of embedded into the R. I kind of like that. Cool. Sometimes I think it looks hokey on some of those cards, but I really like how they did this one. There's a nice place for the auto. However, I didn't realize this auto is a sticker. So just remember that if that's something that bothers you, you zoom in, you can definitely see it's a sticker on the picture. And definitely if you read the back of the card, the jersey is from a photo shoot, just to make sure everyone's aware of that too, if that's something that kind of bothers you. But I think
most rookie
memorabilia I was going to say most rookie memorabilia cards are from photo shoots. And only the card is graded. They didn't grade the auto. So just remember that too. PSA 10 pop count on this card is 16. Overall card condition looks good, but I will say this is where you buy the card, not the grade. If you are interested in this card, zoom in on it and make sure you're comfortable with the 10 grade. The reason I say that is you'll see some little flecks of, it looks like cardboard might have come off somewhere.
Oh.
So and you see one down here. So there's like these pieces of cardboard. I don't think it's anything bad with the material here, but it's something on like somehow a cardboard might have got in between, or it's either on top of the case and it just didn't get removed. And like up here might be a hair. Just look at the card and make sure you're comfortable with it.
There's a Cheeto.
Yeah, there's a Cheeto. He's eating a Cheeto. No, it's just there's some flakes that look like they came off. So I think it still looks really nice. You zoom in on it, the corners look great, edges look really nice. But just to be aware, full disclosure, a PSA 8 Auto 10 copy of this card sold on July 1st of this year for $1,575 US via PWCC, and then a PSA 10 Auto 10 of this card sold on June 16th of 2022 via the PWCC Premier for $9,600 US.
I'm telling you, this PSA 10 Auto 10 is now becoming a thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're definitely onto something there. The last just PSA 10 graded copy of the card without the auto grade I could find was on August 8th of 2022 for $4,494. And that was in Terapeak eBay and verified on Terapeak. Current bid right now for this card is $1,225 US.
So it'll go for a big number.
I think so.
What do you think sells higher, the Lemieux OPC BGS 9.5 or this one?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna say the Lemieux. Probably gonna be way off, but I'm gonna go with the Lemieux.
Good card, Troy. All right, last pick is I'm gonna kind of keep with my staying off the beaten path approach this week. So I picked a 2018 Upper Deck Andrei Svechnikov Young Guns PSA 10. And while we keep saying, because it's true, we haven't started our 2023-24 previews yet or predictions. I picked this card because I think when we get to the point of like comeback players, that this is a guy that is definitely going to be on my list to look at. It has a relatively small pop count for a young gun prospect at 1,056. The one negative would be it does have a 69% gem rate. And I don't know this for sure. I'm kind of going off memory, but I thought in 2018, maybe the prevailing thought is that there weren't a ton of cards printed that year for whatever, it was pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic for sure.
Why would he be a candidate for comeback player of the year? Well, in the middle of last March, the 23-year-old now, Svechnikov, tore his ACL in a game against the Golden Knights. He had surgery, missed the remainder of the season. To that point, he had 23 goals, 32 assists for 55 points in 64 games played. He put in his total through 5 seasons at 112 goals, 152 assists, 264 points, and 347 games played. So he's averaged 3.2 goals per point, 3.2 goals per game, and 0.76 points per game. Not great stats, but when you're a promising young player, I think that has had people excited about him. So he's back skating. The word is he'll be ready for this season. He's also on a really good team, which that should contend for the cup again. So if you're a big Canes fan or follower of Svechnikov, he might be a guy to look at. I think regardless of injury, it's a big year for his hobby relevance. You know, his stats are good for like a 19, 20-year-old guy, but now when you're going to be 24, you need where he had basically 55 points in 64 games last year. I think for him to really break through, he's going to need to be a 40-goal guy, 90-point guy this year. I'm sure Hurricanes management would love that as well. Yeah. Recent sales on a 2018 Svechnikov Young Gun PSA 10 popped 1,052, been around $71 US, so pretty cheap. It's down 25% in the last 3 months where he's been hurt with an ACL. Yep. Troy, this card had hit 240 US last October. I think it was October 27th, so a couple weeks into the season. Think about that, 240 down to 71. I don't know. Are you a Svechnikov guy? Is this a guy that you might look at as a comeback?
I would definitely look at as a comeback candidate. I just don't know him that well. I didn't follow Carolina that closely, even though I think I picked him to win the cup. I didn't follow him too much, but yeah, I think he's got some good stuff going for him. Just needs to come back from a terrible injury.
Yeah. What's the current bid?
$52 US.
All right. So hope you enjoyed the cards that kind of stood out to us. Remember, again, go to PWCCmarketplace.com to place all your bids, whether it be the Premier or the weekly auction or their fixed price marketplace. Well, it's a big day for new product releases. It's a big day, Troy.
Yep, big day.
Black Diamond is out 2022-23. We skipped it.
Yep.
there's just been so many releases popping off left and right. This gets back to mistakes collectors make. Not that Black Diamond is a mistake, or we're talking about vintage versus modern. I think we're all in a situation, unless you have endless streams of money, where you got to make choices and kind of put your money in the sets and cards that really speak to you. And you and I talked about, well, do we get a box of Black Diamond? And we ultimately passed for now. And I think what
Yeah.
it boils down to was the risk reward. There's really Black Diamond has some great cards, but I don't think there's any cards that really speak to you and I where we're
Yeah.
like, this is a card I have to have. There's a lot of cards I appreciate in this set. And when you have $250 and you get 6 cards, it's just the risk reward wasn't there. Another factor for me in this was the 2022-23 rookie hobby class. As I've said before, I'm not super excited about. And so I think like when you're in these decisions of, boy, there's a new release out today, of course that FOMO factor kicks in and a certain part of you wants to open it. But you have to think about, well, like I tell my kids all the time, right? If you're spending money on X, it means you're not going to be able to spend money on Y. And there's sets coming out down the road that you'd rather invest in. So it's really
Yeah.
not anything we have against Black Diamond. It's just more, it's not a set that we're interested in. What were the reasons why you thought to pass on this?
I just, for $250 for 6 cards, it wasn't my jam. Plus, there was another set that came out today on a different, on a platform that I love way more.
Yeah. I honestly think too that Black Diamond might be a really great breaking set.
It's when you throw in, like, you break some product, a couple boxes here, there, and then you throw in Black Diamond.
I didn't price shop, so I was just looking at one breaker earlier, and I think spots were like $45, $48 for like a half of a case or something like that, like random team.
Yeah.
So what is that? 5 boxes would be 30 cards. So yeah, I mean, you're probably get 1 card for $50, but
maybe,
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe you want to throw $50 at it, if not 250, or maybe you're a Black Diamond person. You love the cards, and it's worth the chase. So have fun.
Yeah, I feel like if you're doing that, you might want to throw in like a flagship just so someone gets something. Because you hate, if I'm a breaker, you hate people to get skunked. That's the thing you don't want.
And it doesn't mean we won't get a box, because I think you and me are pretty classic for this. We're like, no, I'm not getting Black Diamond. And then 3 days later, Troy calls, I bought 7 cases. Like, okay.
I'm just the wrappers. I can't get up. The wrapper's way too much.
So we'll be checking secondary market sales, looking for monster. I haven't seen too many like monster hits yet, but I've been really busy today. Seen a lot more stature hits.
I was gonna say, you haven't seen 50 101s get pulled, like stature.
Oh my gosh.
Every breaker
cards of 101, except the boxes we open.
Yeah, except the boxes.
So anyways, best of luck to those who are opening boxes of Black Diamond, but we skipped it, and we'll probably have more on that later. But what did come out today, which we did not skip, is on ePack.
Yeah.
SP Legend Signature Edition. It's 2020 technically, but it doesn't really matter because it's more of a one-off kind of thing. So this is probably the biggest reason why we skipped Black Diamond. Now, Troy, this is definitely more our jam when it comes to new products. The price for a hobby box on ePack was right around $209 US, which was actually pretty comparable to hobby shop prices. I think both of us had a little bit of a fear it'd be like $50 more than, and that might shy us away. So I'm happy that Upper Deck made that price. It's definitely one we can live with. I think you had gotten it recently for like 190 at a local card shop, right? So again, I think 209 US is like fair or livable. One thing I was really excited was to see what exclusives or achievements that Upper Deck would come out with for the set, and honestly there really wasn't a ton, which I guess was a tiny bit disappointing. It's okay, but on exclusives they have basically, if you collect 5 copies of a digital base card, you can combine for a physical silver script. So I'm assuming that's like a facsimile auto that's like an MVP. Is that what you interpret from that?
That's how I interpreted it.
Okay. Then on achievements, there's basically 3 achievements on the ePack site, and they're all around the profiles bounty cards, which as far as bounty card designs go, I actually really like these in SP Legends. So Well, I'm also not exactly sure how different it is than the regular bounty program, but I don't know. Basically, the three are: if you redeem all 48 of the profile cards, there's a 49th card that is, I guess, unannounced at this point that you
Oh,
get. Now, the first 24 people that redeem that 49th card will get a random black auto parallel. And then the first 25 collectors to redeem a complete profile set, which again is 48 cards, get a gold parallel achievement set plus the extra profiles card 49. Sometimes I go through these achievements and my head hurts. I
I
don't
know, I know.
I don't know if there's a way to make it more clear. Maybe I'm just dumb, but
No, they are kind of confusing at times because sometimes it can be like includes everything above plus this. So I was thinking about this as you're thinking this unannounced 49th card. I wonder if they know Phil Kessel's retiring and it's going to be Phil Kessel because he
maybe it's
definitely
a die cut hot dog.
he definitely should be in this product if he retired.
And of course, Troy, because we won't stop with SD Legends. We bought a box. We've already posted our first pack opening video, so stay tuned for that on Instagram. I also assumed you've been spending the day emptying all your bank accounts, Troy,
Oh,
and ready to test it, do a stress test on the ePack server to see how
this
many
is
boxes can be opened at a time.
this is a strength of willpower. I've not bought a box yet. I will
You
eventually.
will. Oh,
I
yeah.
will.
Eventually, like
I
15 minutes after we're done.
but I've held strong for now.
So I did open the box. We're not going to reveal the cards. It was an okay box. I'm really hoping though, Troy, that Upper Deck can work out with ComC whatever the issue is with their scans.
Yep.
It's just still not great. And they'll need time. I get that. But it really does take away from the experience. There were some cards that I couldn't tell who the player was when we were opening the pack. And that's just not a great experience.
Yep.
But all in all, it is exciting to be on ePack. And I think you had mentioned this too, because I know that you look out for this a lot. It's getting harder and harder to get the physical boxes of these. So
Well,
if you
yeah,
do
that's
want,
a, I was gonna I was gonna say that and I totally forgot. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I only found Dave and Adams. I think was the only shop I could find online that had them in stock right now.
so we'll see how many more like Gretzky Future Watch autos come up. We're gonna end the show with personal pickups. You mentioned it in our game plan. We feel like real hockey card collectors,
Yep.
and this is a very exciting one. I'm gonna let you go first because
All
you
right.
got a really awesome card.
So my personal pickup, I am so ecstatic about. I can't be more happier about it. I'm super thrilled about it. So last week I bought a personal box of guess what? 2020-21 SP Signature Edition Legends. And the best card I got out of it was the all-time Future Watch acetate of Luke Robitaille. Again, great player. I don't PC him, and I'm not a Kings guy. But one of our Discord members is a Kings fan and a PC's Robitaille. So he reached out to me, was wondering if I'd want to trade it. I said I would definitely want to trade it. He sent me links to his Insta and his eBay store or his Instagram. I sound like I'm 15 years old. His Instagram account and his eBay store. And I started looking through them, scrolling. And then I saw it and I stopped immediately and texted him and said, would you trade for this card straight up? And he said he would. And I'm going to put it on the screen. It is the 2020 SP Signature Edition Legends Gilles Meloche 97 Legends signature card. I am so stinking in love with this card. The picture is fantastic. I go back to this. This is what a picture of what a goalie should look like. The pads look like they weigh 50 pounds each. He's got the old school waffle, the wood Sherwood. It's a North Stars jersey. The mask is awesome. Everything about this card I'm so happy about, and it's going immediately into a penny sleeve top load, or it'll probably come in a penny sleeve top loader right into my display case. I am never going to get rid of this card. I love it so much. I can't wait for it to get here. And the trade was easy, so I'm happy.
Well, and a benefit of Discord's paying off for you in a big way here. So when you look at pads like this now, do you think, oh wow, that'd make a great second string wallet?
I do. I would love a Gilles Meloche wallet. If they're second string, Gilles Meloche, get on it. He was
There you go.
well. I mean, he was kind of one of the first goalies I ever followed because he played for the North
Yeah.
Stars. I believe he came from the California Golden Seals, and he played with the North Stars, I believe, really late 70s, early 80s to maybe the mid 80s, and then he moved on. But he was one of the first goalies for the North Stars I remember watching. So I am so pumped to get this card.
That's an amazing, amazing card. Okay, well, I had a big pickup too. So I'm still having a lot of fun doing trades on my card post. Honestly, I'm hooked, Troy.
Yep.
I know they're a sponsor, so we got to take that with a grain of salt. We always
Yep.
got to want to disclose that. But it's such a blast. And I'm very, very excited about the deal I did today. So I was able to pick up this 2012 Fleer Retro Jaromir Jagr Noise Boys die cut insert PSA 10. It's a Papa 2, so I got one of the
Nice.
two. I had to trade a LeBron Optic Prism on a 155 that I really did like that card. LeBron's a basketball player, Troy. And then I also had to get rid of or part with a 2021 Sidney Crosby Platinum Preview Cosmic out of 75 from OPG Paper. See, paper pays. Paper pays.
I almost panicked. I thought the highlighter card was coming up. I saw Sidney Crosby, and I thought you were getting rid of your highlighter, and I was going to object.
I got to wear that as my badge of shame for the rest of my life. So I have one tiny reservation about this card.
Yep.
And it's because our guy Jagr here is in a Stolen Stars jersey. I coined that today, Stolen Stars. Do you like that?
Yep, I'm zooming in on it for the YouTube folks.
Of course, I say that because our North Stars were stolen away from us by Norm Green. We love the people at Dallas. I'm glad you have a hockey team. We just don't like Norm Green.
Yeah.
It was bogus and bunk how he took our team from us. And honestly, I think as time goes on, and it obviously hasn't healed my wounds here, but the fact that we didn't get to keep the North Stars name and our colors is what bugs me the most, I think, about this.
Yeah.
But,
I think they've done a good job letting us use the colors every once in a while.
Yeah, I suppose. I think I'm also turning into a huge 2012 Fleer Retro fanboy. I just love all the inserts from that set. So here's like a rundown. You got PMGs, which are kind of the OG hockey ones. Yep. Essential Credentials, which go for huge money. Jambalayas. You've got Intimidation Nation cards, and then another one I really like is Electrifying, in addition to these Noise Boys. Can you buy a time machine, Troy, so I can go back and when everyone was probably like, what's this crap? When 2012 Fleer Retro came out, and I can buy them all up.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then again, I got to give a little plug here to Mark and our friends at mycardpost.com. If you have not checked them out, go to mycardpost.com. You do have to have a subscription to trade, but it's anywhere from like $9 to $22 a month based on how many cards that you list on their site. But then kind of the nice thing is whether you sell cards or you trade, there's no fees or transaction fees. So you pay eBay 13%. It's just part of your subscription with MCP. And I've done like 4 or 5 deals in the past month, so it's been well worth it. And of course, if you register for a free account, you can make offers on multiple cards for free like you would at a card show. Yep. It's just selling and trading are unlocked when you subscribe. And so I'm really loving my experience on my card post. Okay, that's our show. If you like the episode, please leave a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show, you want to support us, chat with us on the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our out of $199 support level tier, or you could do triple gold if you wanted to do that too. You'll be able to participate in the 5K challenge this year, and maybe you'll do well and win the box of 2020 The Cup. The link is in the show description, whether it be on YouTube or the podcast app you're listening to us on. It's in our Instagram profile, in our link tree. You can go to the Patreon website, patreon.com, and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow, or on our website at hockeycardsgongshow.com. There's a link that I think says Become a Patron. We, of course, are on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Please subscribe to us there. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures, LLC. Have an amazing Thursday, and we'll chat with you all early next week.